Adtech moves fast. Yesterday's innovation is today's warm-up act. Welcome to Legends of Adtech, the podcast where we go beyond the buzzwords and straight to the people at the cold face of digital adtech. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with the industry's boldest thinkers, pioneers and disruptors to find out how they're rewriting the game. This is their story.
Welcome back to Legends of Adtech, the show where we uncover the stories behind the people powering the industry. I'm Julia Linehan, founder and CEO of The Digital Voice, and today I'm joined by one of Adtech's greats, a man who's built teams from New York to London and back again, always leading with partnership and purpose. James Macdonald is co-founder and CRO at Limelight Inc, where he helps agencies, publishers and ad networks unlock programmatic potential with simplicity and human support at the very core. From his Fleet Street beginnings to pioneering the early days of mobile at Unanimous, leading international growth at O2 and Adphonic, and launching Limelight's global SaaS platform, James has built his career on people, on innovation and spotting opportunities wherever he goes. Honestly, he's proof that in AdTech, relationships really are everything. So James, welcome to Legends of AdTech.
Hey, hi Julia. Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I'm most impressed with being called a great. I'm not sure that's true, but I'll take it. Hey.
I'm going to set you a challenge first. You've got to, in 60 seconds or less, tell us about who James Macdonald is and how he got where he is today.
Wow. Okay. Gosh. Well, 60 seconds. I'll be really abridged in that case. So how did I get to where I am today? Well, I think, a lot of people would love to be able to say it's all planned and it's all strategy and all of that. But the truth is, we stumble like blind bulls in a china shop into the next opportunity. I think really persistence is a really key thing, and curiosity, right? So if you always understand that there's something more to learn and something more to grasp and something more to address, I've been lucky enough to live through a period of time that's probably like no other. We'll look back in 50 years and say this was the fastest moving change in human operation from communications, from print all the way through to where we are right now with the internet at such a level and AI, right, and everything in between. And I've sort of had to, like everybody else, learn that as I've gone, right? So that's sort of pushed me, and that's what's kept me getting up and out of bed and keep learning, always keep learning.
Do you know what? It's been a hell of a ride. It's always so interesting. And I think then what we'll do, let's pedal back, turn back the clock and think about when you started out at the Daily Express. And I imagine, well, I sort of know. I know you've got stories, but which ones, are there any you can share?
There's loads. I mean, there is loads. I mean, I was really young. My background is I'm a sales guy, right? So I was working in magazines and I got a job at the Daily Express, and it was Smile and Dial. It was really amazing. This was early 80s, I guess, and 200 people on the sales floor, all extremely well dressed. It was greed is good, Gordon Gekko type clothing. It was all about Porsches and that sort of stuff. And on my desk in those days, I didn't have a computer. They didn't exist. It was a card index box, a telephone that you did like you dialed in around like this, and an ashtray because everyone smoked like chimneys. It was amazing.
Smoked our desks. They were the good old days.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that when my first week on the job, my boss said, right, listen, what you do is you get in and you work really hard and you get noticed and you be loud, sort of 8 a.m. through to sort of like 11. And then what you do is you put your jacket on your chair and then you follow me. And so I did, and followed him out through the front of the old Express building on Fleet Street, over the road, down into what was then known as the City Arms, City Trader, City Golf Club. It was down underneath Ludgate Circus, and it was in there for a liquid lunch that went from about 11 through to 3. I'd get sent back every 20 minutes to sort of make a noise and look like my team's there. And then you go back, and because you show your jacket's on the back of the chair, that's how it went in those days. And it was very much the four. It was a very liquid environment.
So here's a question then on that. Do you think we've lost something because it's so much behind desks, behind emails, not with that human touch? How much do you think that still play, that human connection, even pubs or networking or lunches play?
Obviously, I'm slightly old school, and I'm clearly older than the vast majority of people that are, solidly in programmatic. The truth is that everyone used to say programmatic is going to take people's jobs. It's a bit like the AI story. It's going to eat people's jobs. It's all going to be done with machine and all of that. But the truth is, you need more human engagement with programmatic than you ever did in those old school days. So yes, you definitely have lost some engagement and some relationship building and some personal touch points. But the truth is, we are talking to people every day of the week to get things done, to get things moved, to get things unlocked, to flatten ground, to troubleshoot, to optimize, to do all sorts of things, which really are still human. I think there's some skill sets that have definitely changed. And that's that engagement and that connection and that relationship building a little bit. But the truth is, you're still engaging with people. It's just a different set of skills, really, I think.
I want to, because you mentioned AI then, and we're going through that AI at the moment. But let's go back in time again and go, before mobile first was even a thing, and before anyone said the fucking year of the mobile, you were one of the first mobile leads on the digital scene. So what did you see in mobile before others did?
Well, I have to admit that I wasn't any great savant. What it was, I'd come out of a little bit of an interesting period in my career. I had been, in a previous life, in a previous career, I'd managed to be a sales and marketing director on a radio station, which we managed to back into a listed shell, and I made a little bit of money, nothing to sort of lie on a beach with, but I did a really clever thing. Instead of like paying off the house and being sensible, I decided to buy my local pub. Which was, maybe a stupid thing to do, but obviously that took 18 months to get out of my system, and monumentally fuck up, if I'm honest. And then I had to come back out, and of course the market had moved on so quickly that as I came back into it, I thought, well, I've got to try and position myself, and so I sort of looked around at things that I thought were likely to be big, that I could get in front of and be the expert on. So at that stage, I was looking around, and of course, I was thinking, well, it's all about circulation. It's all about how do you reach lots of people. It's all about audience. And what's the one thing that everybody in the entire world, in the entire country, has in their pocket that touches them all? Well, in those days, it was a Nokia mobile phone, right?
I've still got mine.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it's probably worth a few quid now, but in my mind, it was, if there was some way in which we could address and reach and message these people through that medium, that's an enormous audience. So that's where I was going in my mind, and so I got a job as a sales manager of as an SMS aggregation business, and that's how I learned about it. And I put myself through 2 years of learning everything I possibly could by finding a job that would do that for me, and then my career really sort of galloped from there on.
Was it the galloping that then took you all over the world, because you then had you've had a lot of international experience? And then a second to that is, I'm really curious, because there's a lot of people who listen to this that are involved in businesses that are US, Europe, UK. What's the differences in working in those and building teams and partnerships with your experience internationally?
I had this opportunity to go and be first man on the ground for this mobile ad network stroke DSP called Adphonic. And so I decided that I'd take that and go to America and be the first man on the ground there. And that experience of being a man in a pinstripe suit with an accent that's clearly English in an environment like New York, and San Francisco and LA and Miami and all of those key hubs in Chicago, being in and around all of those mobile and those technology first environments was a real learning curve. And yes, there are fundamental differences. I mean, obviously for mobile, even today, it's probably the largest market, I guess, in terms of spend. I think just the fact that America has such enormous regional budgets, you can get an Isuzu car dealership in Southeast Miami that will run a $5-6 million monthly advertising spend, right? And it's a regional, for them it's a regional campaign. This is very much a national play here in the UK. So the scale of it was really quite awe-inspiring. But also they're very clarifying that the Americans, God bless them, they're very direct, they're very straightforward. They do think in very similar ways, but they're not maybe quite as, there's a very different culture in the UK media market and programmatic market to what's actually happening day to day in the States versus what's happening in India, which is another big environment I've spent time in, and also obviously the Middle East, and now more aggressively you're seeing lots coming out of Europe and LATAM, and obviously the Far East as well. So it's there are different cultures, there are different ways of doing it. I think really my approach has always been to try and understand. Partnership's all about mutuality, right? So instead of trying to sell stuff, try and understand what people need and want. And if you're in a situation where what you have can help them deliver that, well, then you're halfway there, right?
So you came back to the UK, and that sort of timed with when you decided to really launch your own company and companies. Was it UK's where I'm going to do it, or was it I'm just ready to do it? Was it family? What was it?
Far more mundane than that, Julia. I'd love to say it was all strategy, but no, I came back from the States and I was at a certain age. By then I was in my mid 40s, and although I was still young and beautiful, obviously, I came back to the UK with an enormous amount of experience, needing a job. But of course, there are younger, fitter, better looking, less fat, quicker, more organised kids that are getting the jobs that I want, right? And so, very quickly, instead of just bashing my head against a brick wall, trying to get a senior position somewhere, I thought, well, I'll make my own. I'll have to. Let's stop doing that. Let's not waste time. You've got a great deal of connection. You can make this happen. So I built a consultancy vehicle, my own consultancy vehicle, and picked up several different partnerships. One of which pulled me back towards my current business partner, David. And together at that time, the work we were doing in consultancy together really opened our eyes to the fact that we definitely wanted to launch our own play. We had some very clear ideas of what we felt was wrong at that time in the programmatic space and what we could do to maybe solve that, or maybe to soften some of those challenges. And that was the seed kernel of Limelight. That was about 7-8 years ago, I guess.
And I always think that people, when they're setting up companies, don't set it up on what you want to do. Set it up on what the challenge exists out there that you're going to address. Was that where you and David, you mentioned there that you talked and when we can see it, we can see a challenge, we're going to solve it. What was that challenge that Limelight Inc. addresses?
So we had, after several adventures, we were working on a short-term contract with a large Finnish video sales and advertising business based in Helsinki. And we split our activity between the two of us. I'm obviously very much biz dev. I'm all about supply and demand and relationships and engagement. And David's very much more about technical and platforms and optimization and operations and delivery, given his background coming out of being the COO at Rocket Fuel. And so we teamed up to make companies like that fly, but we very quickly realized that we didn't have any equity in that. We're hired guns. And so we started thinking about, we'd like to set up our own network, our own business. And so we started looking around for a platform that we could rent, borrow, steal, hijack, squat to really drive our own business. We didn't at that stage really want to build anything for our own because, clearly it's a cash flow thing. There's lots of money involved in doing that. And so we really sort of hunted around the market and did a sort of beauty pageant of all the usual suspects that were out there. But at that time, there was nothing that we saw that was really truly holistic, in a whole, right? And this was one of the challenges that David and I saw in the market, is if you are somebody looking to break into this market and looking to have really scalable and really powerful technology at your fingertips that is really all about supporting you rather than feeding itself, there was a real gap in the market.
So this is what I find really interesting. And you said there, technology doesn't stand still. But that's interestingly, humans are probably the one thing that we change. We get older, more wiser, but we don't. We're the consistent. So I wonder how you maintain though that strong human element within such a tech focused software business. And I know you put the customers attention and give them the human touch, but is there more to it than that? Is there more human involved in a technology process?
The truth is that technology at any level really can be extremely clarifying and it can be extremely powerful, but ultimately it is a tool. It is a tool to deliver a human targeted outcome. right? Now, you could argue that with AI that there are AI targeted outcomes, but actually someone somewhere has to be making a decision about where you want that to take you, right? And that's the same with technology. So you're right, it does develop very quickly, and it's really developed based on human use case or campaign level use case or market led use case. But ultimately, it has to, you talk about how does the human element fit in. We specialize in delivering tools that give you as the human the control over the most advanced technology in the market and how you can then harness it to do your will and to do your in the most efficient manner, right? And that's really, I think, what we mean by, technology with a heartbeat.
Everyone who talks about working with the Limelight Inc team, I mean, it's like they do it with a smile on their face. You really have creative people that really love working with you and those and that long-lasting partnerships. And I think it's technology with a heartbeat and a fuck of a lot of heart goes into it. Is that the secret sauce to those long-lasting relationships, or is it that it works?
I'd love to be broad and say, yes, we're absolutely wonderful. Well, the truth is we are wonderful. Of course we are. There are a lot of really good platforms and really good bits of technology out there, no doubt about it. But there's also a lot of companies that will hand you the keys and make you sign a contract and then make you stumble through dealing with it.
Yeah.
So part of our story is, we will give every single partner a dedicated account manager, right? And whilst that's expensive for us, the truth is that it's a real success driver, right? Because if you've got somebody that will help you grow your business on the technology and someone that will be available to talk to pretty much immediately and someone that will flatten the ground and troubleshoot and be dedicated to making you work as best as you possibly can within that environment, it's simple common sense.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that along with making sure that our offering is always, future proof.
Can't all have been rosy though, James. Any big lessons, big challenges, big fuck ups?
Yeah. Never start believing that you are truly expert at anything, right? So the minute you start thinking, do you know what, we've got this cracked, we're really rather good, and I'm really rather special. The truth is there will be something that bites you, and so the only way to really defend against that is to be curious, to continue asking questions, continue to really involve yourself and really swim in the sea of requirement from your partners. What is it that they want and need? What is it the thing that really makes them win? And how would we deliver a tool that helps them do that in a more efficient, more exciting and exciting and scalable way? And that's really it. You really have to retain that concept of never stand still, never sit back and think, well, there we go, that's it, we've cracked it, because it's never the case. And we have great partnerships, some of which have been with us from the very beginning. We have new people coming on board every week at the moment, which is amazing, which is fantastic. But equally, we have people that sometimes you think, well, hang on, I've not spoken to them enough in the last month, 2 months, 3 months. Let's get on to them. And it is true. You have to keep spinning plates in this world, and it's about relationships.
So is there one thing, you could have more, but let's go with one area, we're heading into 2026, that you think Limelight is going to make the biggest impact?
Efficiency.
Okay.
Buyers, where they, traditionally were looking at, targeting and geo-targeting and DMP and third-party enhancement targeting and a variety of different targeting criteria, all of that remains the same. But now an overarching one is, are the people that we're dealing with, do they operate on an efficient basis?
Mm.
And part of that leads into, a feeling that, there's an awful lot of, I guess, carbon and electricity and stuff being eaten by the programmatic industry. It's not the cleanest industry in that respect. So that's part of it, efficiency in terms of let's make sure that what we do use is being used in the most efficient way to deliver the best result. And that's really all about some of the tools we've got. And AI falls into that a little bit. And, machine learning, we've developed some tools which really help people do that. And so I think efficiency is going to be even more pronounced, not just within Limelight, but across the market.
So you mentioned AI then. And I always think, can I get through an episode without mentioning it? Very quickly, what do you think a good partnership between human and AI looks like? Because I don't want to dwell on it too much because I've got to be honest, we'll sick to death of it in a way.
I think I've got two things to say about AI. I think the first is I don't think we've seen even the start of it. We're still at the stage where you can make babies sing rock songs, right? And that's great. You can get those apps, and we're seeing AI being applied now to programmatic platforms in a very interesting and direct way. Some of it's really compelling. Some of it I think is potentially extremely dangerous. And the reason I say that is that let's take that bow and arrow analogy, right? If you're aiming at the bullseye and you're a little bit shaky with your aim, your arrow is going to travel at the speed of sound and kill someone because you were just slightly an inch out or a centimetre out with your targeting, right? Well, AI is exactly the same. It's an amazing tool. It will clarify, it will go places extremely quickly, and it will do it at a much greater and deeper depth than humans ever could. But it has to be targeted properly. It has to be managed. It has to be harnessed, because otherwise you'll go somewhere very, very quickly that is not right for you.
100%, yeah.
In some of the worst cases, people are saying, well, we were trying to do this and we set some AI up against it, and we got the targeting slightly wrong, and we had huge success based on what the AI was, but it wasn't the KPI we were looking for. But we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that, right?
Yeah.
So there are some really valuable intuitive things for AI. I mean, the interesting thing that we find is that ultimately the people that are prepared to use tools that harness the power of AI and give them the control, give them the opportunity of setting the rules. Those are the current successful ones. But as I say, AI is we're still in the foothills. I mean, I think we've probably all got to that stage where we can recognize an email sent to us by AI because it's just too perfect, right?
Don't get me started. Yeah, it's my bugbear.
The truth is that you have to actually add that human value, use it as the engine to get you where you're going, maybe, but you've got to humanize it. Otherwise, people just won't eat it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it drives me insane. That's a whole other conversation. I got one more question before I hit your quick fire round. One thing, if you were going, right, I'm setting up a company from scratch today, one thing you'd do differently, one thing you'd do the same.
Oh, wow. What would I do differently? Let's say what I'd do the same. I would remain remote as a business.
Hell yes to that.
I think COVID drove a lot of people to test out this remote property, and we were no different. We never have had offices. We've built our team purely remotely, and we KPI people on outcomes rather than hours, right? If they can do it on a beach somewhere but give me the outcome that we require as a business, well, hell, stay on the beach.
100% with you on that.
But it does bring a different type of dynamic to your business, which means when you come to hiring and looking for people, you need people that are like-minded to your mission and are wanting to be part of a team, a family, a group of people that wants to do that and are able to do that. Not everyone can. It's quite an interesting situation, actually. And we often look at people, are they remote or non-remote types of people? I'd keep that, definitely. That works.
Well, credit to you as well, because I've met so many of you and seen you all together. And it is that, I hate to use the cliche of family, but it feels like a really family environment. And that's the thing, when people say remote doesn't work and that you're not going to have that closeness, bullshit to that, because I know our team is close and I know your team is close. So I'm going to be on the remote wagon with you on that.
In terms of things I'd change, well, I'd probably get a haircut a little bit more often. I think this is something that I've learned as a founder. I've always been a doer. I'm a salesman. I wade in. I want to actually do the job. I want to actually be the man that's lifting the rocks and building the wall and having the conversations and signing the deals. So I think probably sooner in our evolution, I would have lent back, and we started hiring some really good quality senior people in the key roles now, and we're very lucky to have very strong people in sales, very senior people in customer success, very, very senior and experienced people in our technology and our operations and across our business. But I think as a founder, you have to be prepared to let those people do their job, and it's I'm sure, Julie, you have similar issues in as much as it's your baby, you want to do it, and people will do it in a different way to you, and you have to be capable of taking that on board if you want to grow.
100%. Let go.
That's something I'm learning, continuing to learn all the time.
Perfect. You've come now to the final part. Very quickly, you have to answer each question with a sort of one sentence answer. It's a quick fire round. Are you ready, James Macdonald?
Yes.
Best piece of leadership advice you've ever received?
Simple quote. If you think you can't or you think you can, you're usually right.
Love that. That's a keeper. What parts of ad tech need a serious rethink in 2026?
I'm going to use a word which is bloat. So part of the ad tech problem is that there are so many people in it and so many people with their hand out and their mouth open. Feed me, feed me, feed me. If you think that most campaigns, probably only about 40 to 50% of the actual media budget actually ends up on media, the rest of it's feeding other people, if you're lucky, that's part of it.
I read a stat that some publishers are receiving as little as 2% of their inventory sales.
Here's the thing, Mr. Publisher. Here's the thing, Mr. Advertiser. Why don't you take control and get a third-party white label platform that is leader in the market that will allow you to own and operate and run and control more of that chain?
100% agree with you. So, James, if you weren't in ad tech, what would you be doing instead? Having a lovely time, probably.
Yeah, I'd be doing something, wouldn't I? I'd be trying to sell something. I'd be annoying someone somewhere.
If you had to give up golf or the saxophone, which would it be?
My wife will say saxophone, and I probably agree with her. It drives people nuts. But the golf just keeps me sane. It's a difficult game that I play badly, but it gets me out of what I do. No mobile phone, 3 or 4 hours at a time, and whilst I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about anything else. I've got some ridiculously horrible trousers and hats and God knows what, and golfy shit. But the truth is, it's something that gets me out of my environment, and it's quite healthy.
We'll be doing a spring ad tech golf day. I'm going to be hosting, I think. So there'll be James's trousers on show there. We might do it together, actually, James. Won't we? Do a Limelight Inc ad tech day. And what's your biggest never again lesson in business?
You should never, in my opinion, it's just my experience, push sell. I spent half a career push selling. And what I mean by that is, buy my thing, here, isn't it shiny?
This is it, yeah.
Push, 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 push. It's got to be pull selling every time. And what I mean by that is, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it? It's Kipling 6, who, what, when, where, why, how. If you can answer those questions and deliver something that they need, then it's not selling. It's a mutual love-in, and people want to do business. That's good mutual business. A good deal is one that both sides win, right? That's a lesson that I would take to my grave, I think.
Perfect. So last three, what's something people don't understand still about programmatic?
It actually is more people-centric than pre-programmatic. It's more people-orientated. There are more people pressing buttons and pulling levers than there ever were in terrestrial media.
I like that. Good. Okay, last two. In one sentence, what does partnership mean to you?
Mutuality. If there is mutual value in it, then it's a partnership. If there is a mutual flow of value, then commercials are really easy, right?
I think that's so fair. Final question. Who would you like to see on Legends of Adtech?
Oh, wow. Well, has anyone thought of actually interviewing you, Julia?
I'd have to interview me. Yes, I agree. No, I don't.
Actually, truthfully, I'd love to see you doing one of these. I'd love to see one of your people interviewing you, or maybe one of your other targets interviewing you. But also, I think people that are players, people that are active, people that are people that have opinions. There's a lot. Listen, you know this. You do this for a living, right? So you get people that have canned opinions, and they're really safe canned opinions, and they trot it out, and it's sort of like newspeak. You see it on the news every night. You want someone that's going to get up and say fuck, right, and do things. That's a terrible thing to say, right? But the truth is, you really want people that are going to give you a bit of entertainment and a bit of exposure and a bit of fun and have a point of view, right?
Thank you so much, James. That's a wrap on this episode of Legends of Adtech. Just a few takeaways from James. I love that James very much focuses on people first, harness the power of AI for good and in the right way. Efficiency is king. Watch that word next year. It's coming out. It's coming bigger. It's got to be what's core to your strategy. And as a leader, for all those out there that are looking to build out their companies, know when to lean in, know when to lean out. So those are just some nuggets. James said so many, it's difficult to choose.
God bless you. Thank you.
And if you'd like to connect with James or learn more about his work, check out the links in the description. If you're wondering what just happened or is happening in AdTech, head over to our brand new website, which is adtechjuice.com. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate, review, and share the episode. And of course, be sure to follow us for many future legends. Until next time, I'm Julia Linehan. Keep it juicy, and thank you, James.
You've been listening to Legends of Adtech, a podcast by Adtech Juice. New episodes drop every 2 weeks, bringing you closer to the pioneers, disruptors, and game changers shaping the future of digital advertising. Stay connected at adtechjuice.com and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn for even more industry know-how.